We have a fabulous, fabulous computer for our brain, and we can upgrade that computer. Once you start understanding how powerful it is, you hook it into energy. Like lace is pretty amazing because you're not working as hard to be you. Well, hello there. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Intuition, Your Success Compass. This week's episode is a recording from a complimentary event that I did in February, and I am going to be doing one of these fairly often. I am so grateful for the group that joined me this month, and I felt so inspired that I wanted to share it with everyone and say, hey, come on in. Please enjoy this recording of mental clutter. So I am so grateful that you're joining me. These monthly things are a lot of fun. I like to get the energy together and see everybody's faces. This is not about adding more to your plate, another thing to do or to remember or anything like that. This is actually about reducing overwhelmment and helping you to focus, open up space for your intuition, your creativity, your joy, because that's what the soul is, right? Our soul is all about joy and it wants to play and it's trying to get our human self to hear that. And at some point, we all will. So the mental clutter, it's a myriad of things. I'm sure you're all familiar with it. It's looping thoughts, unresolved emotions, those limiting belief systems that are pure BS, external distractions. What are people thinking about me? They aren't. They're too busy thinking about themselves. Stop worrying about other people thinking about you. You're not that important. I hate to break it to you, but it helps to minimize the clutter by actually being able to hear it. And one of the things that our brain, our left brain in particular, depends on is your busyness and you're staying distracted and you just keep you're like a moving target, right? Like you just keep going from one thing to another so that you don't catch on to the fact that it's been saying crappy things to you for so long or treating you like a piece of you know what. So when that's going on, of course, your physical space is going to get cluttered. Of course it is. Like, that's the last thing. There's not a pile of papers that's really gonna jeopardize your life. So your brain is always in survival, and sometimes that survival thing, it just makes stuff that's not a big deal seem like a big deal. And my focus tonight is to help you just to be able to recognize it. Again, not don't wanna add a bunch of stuff to your already full plate, but just be able to recognize it and be able to look at it without judgment, with some humor, hopefully, with some love, but also to draw the connection between your mind, your space, your space, and your connection to your soul. And that is also going to contribute to the relationships, the ones you're in with self first, always first. I know, but it's supposed to be first. You chose to come into this lifetime. All right. Unless you're octuplets, you did not come in with others. So you chose to come into this lifetime to get good with yourself, to then be able to help others in some way, whatever floats your boat in whatever way that is. So whatever your external environment looks like right now, that's the inside of your head. So if you're like, oh boy, there's a pile. Well, there's a pile somewhere in there too, so yeah, he was like, oh wow. But this is where the self-love and the humor really needs to be because clutter, whether it's mental or physical, it drains your energy and it closes off your intuition. That's one of the reasons I don't like clutter is because there's too much for my brain to pay attention to. and it can't receive the downloads. It's one of the reasons there's nothing back here. It helps me, even like when I'm on a call, if there was something behind me, my head needs to pick it up. It's behind me. It doesn't know that I hung it there and it's not some monster that's coming after me. Like, we have 3 thoughts of survival. Did you like that? I put up 2 fingers. We have 3 thoughts of survival to 1 thought of joy. That's the ratio your brain works on. And when you realize that, you can start to play with the numbers, right? And you can hopefully not beat yourself up so much when you're having those negative or less than supportive thoughts. You can be like, oh, working my ratio. And the more that your brain has to pay attention to, likely you won't have the energy to clean up the clutter if there's physical stuff in your space, right? Just becomes that recycling symbol. Like, I want the stuff gone. I don't have the energy for the stuff to be gone. But once you start looking at it in a way that, wait a minute, you're living in my brain, like the Mucinex guys, like you want them to move out. So when your brain is overwhelmed, there's not power to draw on for what we refer to as self-command or self-surety. Some might call it confidence. I think that's bullshit. I think we do confidence for other people. It's a con, confidence. But the self-surety and the self-command is where, like, yeah, I might not know what to do, but I trust in me and I trust in my track record and I feel grounded in myself. Just did a grounded yoga class before I started this tonight. So I'd be grounded for you guys and not flying off. But when there's too much clutter, this is where you're going to see procrastination. You're going to see additional stress. You're going to see that analysis paralysis. Like, I should get up and do this. If you're shitting on yourself, you need to cut that out because that's not cool. So if you think of the clutter, like, just take a gander around where you are. Maybe you're in a room that's not cluttered. Good job. And then go to your brain space. Does it feel like anything's cluttered in there? I used to watch hoarders all the time. I used to work with hoarders. I actually really enjoyed it because their little hearts were just hurting so bad. And it's like, let me find what's hurting and then we can get rid of the stuff. But mental clutter isn't just about tasks. It's patterns. It's a pattern you're in. And we all experience it differently. All of us do. I have a friend that we just agree that we don't talk about her office. It's been 21 years and we just don't talk about her home office because she knows I would help in a heartbeat, but she's always getting ready to do it, getting ready to do it. We might get there, might be after she croaks. I don't know. We've also had that conversation. So mental clutter is those patterns. And if you find yourself avoiding a certain room or a task, there's likely a story inside of you connected to that. And with the mental clutter, it's really hard to get to that. What is that story? And I don't mean story in a way like you're telling yourself a story, cut it out. I mean, there's likely a very valid experience that you went through that connected to whatever your clutter of choice is. Now, if we're talking about thinking clutter, mental clutter, that could be how you're speaking to yourself. If you're telling yourself that you're not going to get it done anyway, so don't even bother, or you never do it perfectly. None of us can. Perfection does not exist. So why even bother starting? That would be a pattern, right? Like, how are you speaking to yourself? So to clear up that clutter, you have to be willing to hear what is that voice saying without judgment. So one of the ways that I practice this is I have that voice coming from, like, I don't know, like Charlie Brown's teacher or like a loudspeaker out here. Don't have it yell at you, but it's external so that when I'm hearing it, I actually hear it as, oh, hey, did you know you're doing this? Rather than Vicky, you suck because you just did that thing again. So I see it as a helper because it's pointing me towards what I'm avoiding, what I've made bigger in my head than really needs to be, or what I might be worried about. I don't really do the worry thing, but occasionally it sneaks in there. So this is where if you have a piece of paper, this would come in handy, or notes on your phone, however you want to do it. Um, we're going to go through, I'm going to give you 3 areas of clutter. No, I'm not walking around your house, but I'm going to give you 3 areas of clutter. And what I would like you to do is for each one, I'm going to mention what it is. So the first one's mental clutter, if you want to write it down. The first one's mental clutter. And then I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to give you a minute or so to jot down your answers. Don't go into stinking thinking here. What's your first answer that comes up? We want to use your intuition too. And then there's going to be 2 other subjects. Okay. So the first one, mental clutter. What thought patterns, worries, or expectations keep running in my mind? What thought patterns, worries, or expectations keep running in my mind? Okay. So physical clutter. What spaces, objects, or piles in my environment feel heavy or distracting? Could be both. What spaces, meaning what place in your home, or objects in my environment feel heavy or distracting? Okay. So the next one, or the last one actually for tonight, only so much time. What energy clutter? So what habits or relationships drain my energy? What habits or relationships drain my energy? So as you go through those things, it's meant to maybe give you a starting point. Okay, no, maybe about that. It's meant to give you a starting point. It's meant to give you a, oh, I didn't even realize that was bugging me. Like when I've done this in my home, sometimes if I'm feeling like, that feeling where you could bust out of your body, but you don't know what's going on. And you're like, I just feel like I can bust out of my body. But you're looking around and you're like, okay, it's okay. I don't feel like I'm intuitively picking up on something. What the hell? I will stand smack dab in the middle of my house and just feel the space out and walk into each room energetically. And sometimes it's been that I put something in a room thinking it would work there. And then I'm like, oh, I don't really like it, but I never stopped in walking by it to move it out of the way. Was it hurting anyone? No. But energetically, it was bugging me, but not enough to make it to my thinking mushroom. Like it wasn't enough to get to the gray matter. So energetically, when you get cluttered, you can't hear the messages, whether that's from your guides, your angels, your soul, intuition. You just can't because it's got to fight through all the static to get through, like a bad radio signal. So, did anyone, you can wave or nod or wiggle, um, have an awareness that dropped in for you of something that you didn't necessarily think was a pattern or an object or a um, relationship? Yay, nay, possibly? Okay. Well, doing this practice, of course, I'm asking you to be in your left brain, right brain, left brain, right brain, left brain, right brain, while we're discussing. So doing this practice when you have some time to sit quietly and ask yourself the question and you're not on any video, which by the way, when we do these exercises, feel free to take yourself off video, but pausing is really the answer to clearing clutter, whether that's in your head, in your heart, in your energy field, in your physical space. Now, if it's in your physical space, you pause long enough to know what it is that needs to be decluttered, but then you go do it. Like there's no magic wands. You do have to get off your butt and take care of things. So awareness, I cannot say this enough without boring you to tears, but awareness is where everything starts. Having that knowing, that aha moment, that you moment, I would love for you to celebrate that. So whenever there's an awareness, even if you don't get off your choochie boomy, I would love for you to celebrate. I would love for you to say, ah, I heard that. I caught that. And maybe it gets landed somewhere. Maybe it's written down. I have a working to-do list at all times. I actually just picked it up off the living room table today because it's been sitting there for about 4 or 5 days. And I'm like, that's not where it lives. It lives on the island. So I just picked it up and put it there. And that to-do list will roll over. It rolls. It just keeps rolling. I mean, one of the things is clip the dog's nails. Tell me why I can stand up in front of 1,000 people and not be nervous, but ask me to clip my dog's nails and I hyperventilate. But, ugh. So you're going to have to pause enough to have the awareness, which also means you have to be brave enough to have the awareness. Notice I have not said you have to do something about it yet. We're not jumping to acting on it just yet. It's the awareness and let it let it integrate and come into your system to be like, yeah, that'd be cool if I acted on that, and give yourself the choice. We have a fabulous, fabulous computer for our brain, and we can upgrade that computer. Once you start understanding how powerful it is, then you hook it into energy. Like, lace is pretty amazing because you're not working as hard to be you. So there are many tricks that the left brain, your subconscious, the critic, the judge, the inner biatch, however you want to refer to it, will say to you to keep you from awareness, to keep you cluttered, to keep you ruminating, chewing your cud on old things. And it just, not to demonize it, but it tells you lies because it's trying to keep you safe. So it'll say, you don't have time to clear your mind or your space. You don't have time. You likely do. Whenever anybody uses that phrase in coaching, I'm like, okay, time study. Let's do a time study. Because I promise you, we all have time in our week. I won't say day because sometimes the days are like blah, blah. But in your week, you have time. But that's that sneaky trick that it uses to talk about busyness over how good would it feel to put your laundry away as soon as it's been folded, right? Like that feels amazing. It's these small things in life that actually are the big things. So I have a nightgown that says that. So when you strengthen your sense of self, your self-surety, you shift from a reactive, cluttered life like constantly reacting to whatever's in front of you in the moment or what's yelling the loudest. And if you have kids, maybe it's the kid that's yelling the loudest, but to one that's intentional and clear focused. So, how do you apply this? Very small steps. These are not giant leaps for mankind here. Very small steps. Maybe working on some boundaries with the pooches would be a good. So, to rewire and to create those neural pathways that you so beautifully already have. So this is how you're going to do it. Okay. Whether it's physical clutter, whether it's mental clutter, energetic, emotional clutter. Didn't even put that one on the list, but that gets in there too with the stuff that we're processing. You're going to have that awareness, right? Because now you've told your brain and your spirit that you're excited about learning what is your clutter. You're no longer going to judge it. You're excited about it. So you have that awareness, and then you have to pause for at least 10 seconds. I would love 20 because why not? So take 5 breaths if that works for you. Pause and when you in yoga where you find your drishti, you just stare at a spot so you don't fall on your butt. That is one of my most favorite recalibrations of my brain. And it doesn't matter what I'm staring at. Sometimes I've been staring at the cat laying there, or I usually try to get something small, like their little toe beans or something, rather than the whole cat. But 20 seconds when you're doing that, and they've what? Besides the fact that I've been talking since 8 a.m., my words been not working. I get so excited, and I want you to have clear and clutter cleared. So they've proven this on functional MRIs that when we take that pause for at least 10, but let's go for 20 because you're all brilliant, it takes the brain out of reactivity. There's a neutral zone that it goes through, and then it comes over into the right brain, which is intuition, emotional processing, action. Action does not live in our left brain. It doesn't live in our hands. It doesn't live in our feet. It lives in our right brain. So by taking those 20 seconds, you're at a stoplight. There's 20 seconds, right? Pay attention, but there's 20 seconds. When you do that, it does a clearing of the clutter that you've collected that day already. Okay. When we go to sleep, we have a form of clutter clearing. As your body goes to sleep, your soul starts to travel. And that's a way of like dumping the files from the day. That's why you can have dreams of processing your subconscious, And it's also why sometimes you can wake up in the morning and be like, where did those not 8 hours go? If you're getting 8 hours, you rock. But this pause needs to be done when you're awake to move the neural pathways. Think of it as needing your permission to move over from reactivity or stress or fear into this spot. Okay. So you just pause, shift your focus to something, use any of your senses, feeling, breathing, hearing, seeing, intuitively, maybe tapping into your energy field for that time. I don't know about you, but I get lost. It's way more than 20 seconds. I'm like, oh, look, that was shiny. And then ask yourself, what's my first action? We don't do it from the reactive side. It's not going to work. You've been living from that side long enough. It's not going to work. Get over into your heart-centered right brain and then ask, what's the first step I can take? So you're going to go back to that list of mental, physical, energy clutter, and you're going to take your 20 seconds, probably going to take a deep breath, and then you're going to ask, what's my first step? Okay, micro movements matter. It's a reset, and it is the key to like long-term clarity. People say, I want to be clear. I want to know, what's my direction? What's my, I don't know, I'll say purpose because that's too heavily filled, but you can't know that until the clutter gets taken out. Now, one of the things you can do is like cross promote. If you're having a hard time, say you're working on a project and you have no clarity. You can't figure out what went wrong, where the numbers are bonked up, what to say to that client. You can't figure it out. That's where you take your 20 seconds, you look at another area of clutter you have in your life, physical mostly, and go do something. If you're in an office, there's still going to be something that needs to be cleared. There's still going to be something that needs to be taken care of. If not, you go get yourself a drink of water, because then later you're going to need a trip to the loo. And all of this will help to keep that brain moving. So it's not a difficult concept, and it's probably one you've heard 85 million times, but you're here tonight because part of you says, yes, I actually am kind of tired of carrying around the clutter around me, the clutter in my heart, the clutter in my head. So let me take the moments to pause and to shift into the place I can actually do something about it. So, having said that, there will be questions and answers and stuff. I'm just going to blow through my stuff here. I would love to take you through a visualization of putting down clutter. So, if you want to, you're going to be closing your eyes. So, I could be seeing me anyway. So let's first take a couple of those deep breaths that we always do. And when you're doing meditation or visualization, maybe wiggle the shoulders, get the energy ready to release. Okay. So close those eyes. Take a deep breath in. We're talking Buddha belly. And out. Let's get one more of those. Come on. Happy Buddha. Good. And you can return to your breathing pattern. So just feel your body. Feel your body settle into the space that you're in. I'm going to ask you to use your imagination a little bit here. There is no intuition without imagination. Now imagine you're carrying a backpack. You may not have noticed it before, but as you tune in, you realize this thing's heavy. What's it filled with? Pulling on my shoulders and my lower back. It's heavy because it's filled with thoughts, concerns, worries, old patterns, gotta do, should be things. And all of that is the clutter in your mind. One by one, begin to take things out of your backpack. Maybe it's a looping thought that you keep replaying. Maybe it is that to-do list that never ends. Thankfully, or that means you've croaked. Maybe it's an old belief about yourself that you actually don't believe anymore and is no longer serving you. Take a few moments to notice what's in your backpack. Notice each piece as you set it down in front of you. With each item you release, feel your body getting lighter. Your breath comes easier. There's more space inside of you. And wow, do your shoulders feel good now. Now take a step back and look at everything you've set down. And notice that it's no longer weighing you down. You're sitting taller, or standing taller. And now imagine a gentle breeze sweeping through, clearing everything that you've placed down, clearing it right out of your view. You do not have to carry it all. If there was anything in that backpack that you took out and matters to you, it will stay, but the rest of it can go. Take a deep breath in, and as you exhale, feel yourself open. Maybe you stretch those shoulders that have been carrying so much. Maybe you wiggle those angel wings. Feel yourself more present, more clear, maybe ready for bed, but more available to what matters most to you. And when you're ready, bring your awareness back to the space around you. And then when you feel ready, slowly open your eyes. Become aware of the room. So that took us a little over a minute and a half. Okay, that was it. So that's an example of there is time, because it probably felt like it was longer to you. And that's the beauty of presence. Time just stretches out when you're really present and there's less clutter going on in there, pulling your attention back and forth. And it comes to the physical stuff, the questions of, well, if I let it go, won't I need it later? Maybe, maybe not. Is this relationship really helping me? Well, it's not like you have to, unless it's abusive, cut somebody out. But asking these questions are actually a good idea in relationships that are going swimmingly so that you do stay present. Like I said in the beginning, this is not about adding more to your already full lives. It's about making space for what matters. And your health matters, your emotional, your mental health matters, your psychic health, the health of the area around you. So, how good does it feel when you have cleared out clutter? Maybe you donated it if it's physical stuff, like you gave it to charity of your choice. Like that feels good. And it can also free up your time because there's less that you have to take care of, right? I mean, there's just less that you have to look at. So that's true of the voices or the saboteurs in our brain too. When you start paying attention to them and you take them out, they take up less space in your waking moments and likely in your sleep. I just have no study on that. I know I sleep really well, so maybe that's the study. So did anyone I'll unmute you if you raise your hand, but did anyone have an awareness of things that could come out of your backpack? Like, were you able to tune into that and take things out of your backpack? Yes. Cool. Like, I think at some point in all of our lives, whether they're, earthside or not, it's very hard to be a full-fledged adult until you take your parents out of your backpack. Like, you guys got to walk on your own, man. And thank you, good luck, ta-ta. Just to even energetically remove the cords to that. So I love that. Now, did you think of that going in, though?
No.
Okay. See, I love that. I love that.
Yeah, no, I didn't have any thought of that going in.
Okay. I love that because that's like your knowing. It is your knowing speaking to you, because you're like, why? Why would my parents be in my backpack? And then being able to appreciate the fact that, "Oh, that's like 2 people lighter." That's like one of those big packs that they take camping or and now you're down to your day pack. It could be fun to, like, follow yourself around and even see how that lighter feels because you're no longer having to keep everybody happy or what would they think if they didn't approve, I shouldn't do it. All of those messages that are still in the physical wiring, even though they're not thinking that from their, growth status. So Tanya was surprised at how ugly the form was of so many things I took out of my backpack. Yeah. And it's in total transparency. The reason I use a backpack is most kids, we've all pretty much had one at some point, but usually you're a kid when you have a backpack. And it's like, well, what are we unpacking then, friends? Because our neural pathways and our saboteurs get programmed in childhood, not a blame game, just the truth. And if the more you're aware of that, you can unpack your parents. I love it. I love it. So, and the surprise at how, like, if there was stuff that came out of your pack that you really, that wind was there to just take it on, right? I always picture like tumbleweed. Like, just take it on. I don't need to have that anymore. Sometimes we do have to have the stuff that's within us dispersed, or the trash taken out for us to feel like we can move forward and in our own brilliance, in our own joy. Again, making space for what matters. Like you you may take that backpack the next time you go overseas or something. That'd be pretty cool. Put something else in it. You can reverse the visualization. What do you want to put in your backpack? Not physical stuff. We're not putting more clutter. Stop it. Stop it. You do not need one more sweatshirt. Stop it. Okay. So one of the saboteurs that we all have 10. Um, and one of them is the avoider. So that's why I asked, once you get into it, if you enjoy it, then I would suspect that the avoider is at play there. And it's both keeping you from something you enjoy and trying to drag out the get into it process. So what I would do there is challenge it a little bit. You're going to go sit down. I would actually have a conversation with my left brain and say, what do you think needs to be done before I sit down? And then do those things. And then when you sit down, if that focus is there, celebration has to come in. Like there has to be oh, I freaking unlocked it. I got this. Because there's a level of, yes, this is bugging me. I need to get that done before I can focus. This sounds more like your brain knowing that you're going on to something that will elevate, you in learning, career or otherwise, is like, slow your roll there, ma'am. Like, let's not be too crazy thinking you're awesome or anything. Right. So, and that is until you become aware of the voice that's in there. Oh, procrastination nation. Like it's across the board. So challenge it a little bit by show me show me what the things are. Now, if you sat down and you still thought of other things, then what I would want you to do is to take those 20 seconds and really tune in to maybe pick one muscle. Pick one. Oh, that's fun if you're learning muscles. Pick one muscle and tune into it in your body. Like really find it energetically and then stay there for 20, 30 seconds as long as you want. And then when you come out of it, take that deep breath, and then you will be, it's just science, you will be in your right brain then, which is about action.
we cannot take action from our left brain. We just can't. So my feeling is you have a kind of a 50-50 thing going on. You have some, oh lordy, this is going to be intense, but it's that, well, that's not even 50. I'd say it's about 30. The 70% is, this feels like it's going to elevate you, and that scares me, so they're cute little brains we have, weren't they? Does that answer your question? Okay, good. Good. All right. The more ease we can have around how we're wired, and even some, like when I was studying all of this years ago in repatterning and all of that, it brought such a comfort to me that the majority of us are walking around with the same brain and like the same kind of dysfunctions in there too. So it's like, oh, cool. It's not only me, but I have to be responsible for the one I have. And I want it to operate in a way that is ease and calm and everything. So this is a great place for like a thought replacement, because when we rewrite the thought that's there, like this is drudgery, to, oh, I'm gonna challenge you and see how good this feels going into it. If you rewrite it, and even something like, what lights me up about this process? Okay. I am not lit up about mopping. I stinking hate to mop. I have a steam mop I love, but I don't like it for whatever reason. So before I start, I don't want to spread that energy out. You know, before I start, I actually take the 20 seconds and I'm like, what is it like afterwards? It smells like fresh linen in here. The floors are clean, at least until the dogs go out one more time. And it's just like anybody can come through the front door and I'd be happy to receive you. Well, I'll be happy to receive you. If you're going to judge about my dust bunnies, don't come back. But so the less that your brain has to work about these things, the more fun all of this stuff is. And then when you look to what lights me up about this, get the energy high before you start any conversation, any task, any project, any homework. Because when you're making space for stuff that matters, you're saying that you care about yourself. And sometimes that's hard for us. Sometimes that self-love thing is a little tricky. So, said I wasn't gonna do a reading, but I have a drop-in happening, so it's kinda hard to keep those things. I keep hearing some version of, "I should be able to do this all on my own." So, whomever's out there and not asking for help, stop it. It's actually a really good example, now that I let my brain think about it, of how our brains can clutter. Another one of those, right? Like, I don't have time, or I have to make sure everybody else is happy first. You should be able to do this all on your own, is a hyper independence. And then that blocks tools or support people clarity. It'll block the clarity. So if that resonates with you, I'm just going to ask you after this call to sit for a few minutes, take a deep breath, and get those arms open, because we're going to ask for spirit to come in and help you, and then to bring the peeps in to help you. Okay. So we're looking for mindset shifts. We're not looking for clarity overnight. It's like, what are those small steps that add up? I one of a yoga teacher I had one time, I loved her so much because someone came in and said, "I don't think I can do this. I'm not flexible." And deadpan looked right at them and said, "Well, that's why you come to yoga, to get flexible." And the same is true of this, right? Like, you won't have that mindset that's clear and that's supporting you if you don't look at the clutter. So, but look at that clutter as indications of your brilliance, like it's telling you something. And so, what are you telling me? And have the conversations. So, turn it into insight rather than judgment. Okay. So, So Sharon, if your bedroom always feels cluttered, just stand in your doorway. Just stand in your doorway and go, who needs to go? Who needs to go? You're out of here. Because while we're sleeping, if you're someone that has the books on your nightstand, your brain is processing all of that while you're sleeping. So you want to know why you're tired? You have a TV in your room? Do you have a bunch of books? Do you have clothes piled up? You know, it's not just the snoring partner. It's the stuff that's around you. So, but be inquisitive about it. Stop judging yourself for the clutter. Be blessed. Feel grateful. If you have a lot of physical stuff around you, you're blessed. You are. So start feeling blessed about that, but then bless it right out the freaking door and donate some stuff. So that you can make the space for your brain to open up. So, all right. I am doing another mindset breakthrough. It's starting March 4th. May the 4th be with you. So that's a 7-week program focusing on the positive intelligence to help with the clarity, but also to turn down the saboteurs and to bring up the sage, the wisdom part of your brain. So you'll probably get an email for that. So thank you all for being here. I appreciate you. And I hope you have a great rest of your day, month, whatever. All right. Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Intuition, Your Success Compass. I appreciate you being here. If you would like more information about developing your intuitive skills, removing those blocks, and creating the life that feels the most successful to you, then head on over to vickibaird.com. That's VICKIBAIRD.com. And check out the courses, the groups, and the Spaces app that will allow you to be part of our community and know about upcoming events and specials. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next episode.